It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another Hockey Writers Grindline. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and I'm always joined by my co-host, Devin Little. Devin, we're a defense pairing, not a grind line. We're a grind defense. I mean, who are you, Nick Lidstrom? Who are you?
I was just gonna say we're Lidstrom and Brian Rafalski in the 08 run, so that's not a bad pairing, right?
Not a bad pairing. It actually fits because Rafalski was an undersized defenseman, so that's what I would be.
Go.
So there you go.
There you go.
Well, yeah, we're a defense pairing on this episode, and we're going to be talking defense, particularly one that's scored his first goal. But before we get into that, we'll go on to our usual segment that we always start the shows off with. One good, one bad. Devin, good and a bad from the past 2 weeks, because we didn't have a show last week.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off with my good, and that would be in Red Wings land here. Prospect Red Savage just announced that he is transferring from the University of Miami, Ohio to Michigan State. I think that's going to be a really good move for him for a number of reasons. First being that Michigan State seems like they're really making moves to add talent to that roster. They just I don't know if it's official yet, but it sounds like they're adding Isaac Howard, who was a top pick of the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. And Adam Nightingale's their coach. He's coached with the Red Wings before, so they got a good coach behind them, adding talent. I think that's just gonna be a really good fit for Red Savage. And then also, he's an hour and a half away from Detroit at that point. So right in Detroit's backyard, they can keep an eye on him. So yeah, good for Red Savage making that move. And then my one bad, is that we didn't have a show last week. Apologies to all the viewers and listeners out there. It wasn't necessarily the plan, just kind of fell apart, and we're happy to be with you this week. Hopefully enjoy this week's show.
Yes, we love doing this show, and we're gonna endeavor to go every week. Even if it's just the two of us. So yeah. My good is on a defenseman that the Canucks acquired, Filip Hronek, made his debut yesterday as we record this, and he had a really good game. He had to play a little more because the Canucks had Christian Wolanin, and he went out really early in the game. So the Canucks were down to 5 defensemen, and Hronek played a ton and played really well. I really like, if that's going to be the Hronek that Canucks fans are going to see, I think they're going to be in for a treat, because he's, he didn't score, he didn't get any points, but very solid defensively. Looked like a vet. Obviously, he's a veteran defenseman. So I mean, I'm encouraged by what Hronek has done, and that's my good. Hopefully he can keep going on that, because the Canucks need another legitimate top 4 defenseman, and Hronek definitely is that. And my bad is John Garrett, who's a longtime broadcaster, color commentator for the Canucks here, regional broadcasts, former Canucks goaltender as well. He announced that he's not retiring, but he's leaving the booth for, after this season. So that's some bittersweet, because I grew up, I can't remember the last time that John Garrett was not broadcasting on Canucks, a regional, as Sportsnet Pacific, with Jim Hewson before John Shorthouse. So that's, it's going to be sad not hearing him beside Shorthouse on every week, or not every week, every game. So that's a bad. He's still going to be apparently he's still going to be doing some stuff, but not a regular anymore. So that's my good and bad from the last this week here. So
and real quick, I do want to throw this out here, because I would be remiss if I mentioned Michigan State without throwing out a quick shout out to our old host, Kyle Knopp.
Yeah.
Kyle, how you doing? Hope you're doing well out there. Looking forward to having you on the show in the future.
Yes, we definitely got to get Kyle back on the show, because catch up with him. I mean, he hasn't been off for a long time, but it's been enough, I think, for him to come back soon. So shout out to Kyle and of course Pat. He's always all this stuff going on. So Arizona, apparently, still having a relatively good season lately. They've been pretty good. So
Clayton Keller is a machine.
Right, there you go. All right, well, that's a good and bad, but let's move into another, say, a good, and that's Simon Edvinsson, who's made his NHL debut, has 3 games under his belt now, and scored his first goal. Wasn't pretty. I mean, it bounced in off a guy's knee, but he'll take it. Your first NHL goal, he'll probably say it was a breakaway, and he made a great move to score it, or blast from the blue line, or something like that. So, but Edvinsson's got his first goal. He's got that one in the goal top column. So, Devin, I want to get your thoughts on Edvinsson, his first 3 games in the NHL. What do you like about him? He's played about 14 minutes average ice time. I mean, it's not a lot. He's playing, according to his defense pairings are Jordan Osterley, for the most part. So what do you think about his time in the NHL so far?
Well, to put it shortly, I've been very impressed. He's obviously spent this entire season in the Grand Rapids. He was one of the last cuts out of training camp. So we kind of already knew he was close, right? We already knew that if he needed to play in the NHL, he probably could. But for him to now finally get this taste and to not only score that first goal, but to, like I said, look really good, I think that's got to have you really excited about next season, because chances are he's going to be, part of the constant rotation. I've liked what I've seen from him offensively. I think that you can tell that he's a player that likes to take charge and make things happen. It really helps that he has that size, so he's able to hold on to the puck. He's able to kind of be a general back there. I think that with more playing time and more, as he gets more comfortable at the NHL level, you'll see that really start to show more and more. But what I've also been really impressed by is his gap control, his ability to use his stick to disrupt and break up plays. He really I've seen him on a few different occasions give that extra effort to, make a defensive play. And that's what you want to see from, a young defenseman, especially one that's known for his offensive game, not more so than his defensive game. And then also his willingness to play physical and, get in people's faces. That first, I think it wasn't his first game, it was his second game against the Florida Panthers. He was mucking it up with Matthew Zator. That's not just like some random dude who maybe get rough with. That's Matthew Zator. That's one of the best pests in the NHL. And for him to be giving it to him and going back and forth with them, that's really exciting. We already know that Seider is really good at doing the reverse hits, and he can be physical. So you got Seider and Edvinsson on the blue line. Both of them are capable of playing great defense, great offense, and they're going to be physical. I think that I don't know. I know I'm pretty excited. I hope you are too, because 3 games isn't a lot to go off of. I'm not drawing any meaningful conclusions on this, but man, if this is a sneak peek of what's to come heading into next season, I can't wait for number 3 to play a full season in Detroit.
Yeah, he's looked really good. Like I say, 3 games, like you said, 3 games is not a lot. I mean, there's some positives to show, and that's what's good. He's had a great season in the AHL, so it's great that he's translated that into the NHL. And he'll just draw upon that and get confidence. Like you said, going against Matthew Zator is no small thing. And being able to go, again, he has the size to deal with them. So, I mean, it's not but he doesn't back down. So that's great. And he's looked really good in the advanced stats. His Corsi's above 50%. So, I mean, it's again, it's not a lot to go on, but it's a good sign. I mean, the underlying stats matter. So, and 14 minutes a night, it's average. I mean, it's not a ton. He hasn't played on the power play. He has 7 seconds shorthanded. I mean, that's not, he probably got on the, last trail end of a penalty kill, but Yeah, his career high in ice time, 15:34. That was in his first game. In the game he did score the goal, 14:49. Plus minus, whatever. I mean, he's a -2. I mean, it's not bad. He had 3 shots in the last game too, so he's got a few more shots. And even on the goal, he wasn't afraid to get the puck on net, and that's why it went in. So I mean, go off bodies, and there you go. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the next whatever amount of games he'll get to the end of the season here. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he did have he was a healthy scratch in one of the games in the 4 he's been. So we'll see how many more games he gets, but it's going to be great to see and look back again at the end of the season, depending on how many games he does get. We'll have a larger sample size to see what he looks like.
I also want to throw out real quick that I think it's a really, really good thing that after, I want to say it was the first game, maybe the second game, I don't remember which one it was, but Coach Derek Lalonde singled Edvinsson out as being their best defenseman. Obviously, like you said, Matt, limited ice time, so it's not like he, was on there for 25 minutes or whatever, and he was really showing up. But in his limited amount of time that he is on the ice, he's showing up and showing up well. And if you're winning over the head coach at the NHL level, I think that bodes well for your future.
For sure. And in the small amount of ice time too, you don't have a lot of time to show. So, I mean, you get the 25 minutes, you're going to a lot of shifts to do stuff. So it's great that he's doing it in the small amount. Right. So very exciting to see what he can do. All right. Well, let's get to our first off the rush segment. And it's going to be about Edvinsson. And I'm going to compare 2 defensemen, and one is not in the NHL right now. He has played 9 games. He was drafted a spot after Edvinsson. So, Devin, I want your honest opinion right now. Are you okay with the Red Wings having Edvinsson over Brandt Clarke, who's ripping up the OHL right now? He's like scoring at a forward pace. I mean, he's been insane. So, would you rather? I'll say it either or. So, would you rather have? Are you okay with having Edvinsson over Brandt Clarke?
It's a weird time to answer this question because the Red Wings are hurting for talented right-handed defensemen, and Brandt Clarke is certainly one of those. But you got to stick to your guns, at least at this point, right? I think that I'm pleased with the Edvinsson pick. I think that these 3 games he's played has showed well for him, and I think that it's inspired confidence about him moving forward. And I think he's going to be a key part of the Red Wings lineup moving forward. But that's not to take away from anything Brandt Clarke did. And if they had taken Brandt Clarke at 6th overall, I'm sure I'd be saying the exact opposite. Yeah, Brandt Clarke's way better than Edvinsson, and he fits everything. It's fantastic. But as far as this show's concerned, Simon Edvinsson is a Detroit Red Wing, and that is what matters.
There you go. It's always fun to look in that hindsight. But yeah, in my opinion, I would have, Brandt Clarke's just been amazing. I mean, yes, again, he hasn't had a lot of NHL time either. He's only had 9 games. A couple assists in those. So, I mean, it's not like he's been ripping up the NHL, and Edvinsson, I mean, if you want to look at it, Edvinsson's got the leg up. He's in the NHL right now. But whatever, there you go. All right. Next question is, we've been talking about Edvinsson being paired with Moritz Seider. Do you think that's the best place in his prime? Do you think that's what should happen? Or is it better that he anchors his own defense pairing?
I personally believe that it's better to have them separate, because then you have the option of joining them, especially if you're down a goal or, you need to protect the lead late in the game. You can always go back to that and put them together, and you have your best 2 defensemen on the ice. But I think it makes more sense to have one of them on the ice for 50 minutes of a 60-minute game versus to have both of them on the ice for 25 minutes, maybe 30. I think that when you have 2 blue chip, top tier young defensemen like this, you got to kind of exploit your riches, right? It's not often that you have 2 of these guys. And while yes, I do think a top pairing of those 2 would be crazy, I think it makes more sense to have that in your back pocket as something you can go to rather than your first move, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. I mean, the thing is like you load up, and it's great to have that option that you can load them up, especially when you need some offense, and you get them both on the ice. But splitting them up probably spreads out your defense, spreads out your talent. So yeah, for sure. And a follow-up question: Do the Red Wings have his ideal partner on the roster right now? I mean, we said Seider, but does he have the best one in the system right now?
I'm gonna yes
Not long
and
to go
no.
on. I mean,
Yeah. Yes and no, because I do think Edvinsson's gonna flourish with somebody who's more of a stay-at-home guy. And that's kind of why I thought Gus Lindstrom was gonna be a perfect fit for him, because that's the game he plays. But that did not work, and Gus Lindstrom might be on his last few games as a Red Wing, but we'll discuss that in another show. Um, but I think that somebody like Albert Johansson could complement him. Albert Johansson plays that two-way game. He can be more offensive. He can be more defensive. He's a left-handed shot like Edvinsson, so I don't think that's ideal. But I think that in terms of what is in the system, I think that is somebody you can point to and be like, that would work with Edvinsson. And they've been teammates with Grand Rapids this season, so there's, they're familiar with each other at this point. But I to like actually answer the question, probably not. They don't have that ideal guy, but they do have a guy or two that could play the role.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's obviously the draft coming up, and we'll see what Yzerman does there. But stay tuned. There's gonna be a question later on about that. So, but before we get there, let's pay some bills and talk about Hockeypedia, the Hockey Writers Hockeypedia page over at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to know where and when Edvinsson was drafted, I'm sure most Red Wings know, but if you don't, take a look at Hockeypedia. It says it right there. If you want to know who else was drafted in the same year that Edvinsson was, check that out as well. There's a lot going on at the Hockey Writers Hockeypedia. Make sure you're checking that out, bookmarking it. That is in the show description below. Take a look, and there's a lot of information at Hockeypedia, and it's growing every day. Lots of stuff coming out, so check that out. All right, well, now that we've paid the bills, let's talk about a veteran forward, and talk about a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. I was surprised to see this guy's name again, because he was a former Canuck last year, and he had a pretty good season, 13 goals with the Canucks. Alex Chiasson was in Grand Rapids. He's now with the Red Wings. Has seemingly come out of nowhere. He's got 5 goals in 10 games. Been a pretty consistent contributor in those 10. So, Devin, do you think he has a chance to get a contract in 23-24 and be a regular in the lineup? Because he's been a pretty good guy to come on the roster here.
Yeah, coming out of nowhere to be a big time contributor is definitely the right way to describe it, because I've seen a few people on social media go like, I didn't even know he was in Grand Rapids. Where'd this dude come from? Like, it kind of flew under the radar. Kudos to him, right? Because he signed an AHL deal with Grand Rapids. He didn't have an NHL deal until the trade deadline. That's when the Red Wings signed him. And so he earned his way into Detroit. And once he got his opportunity, as you illustrated, he's done nothing but make the most of it. So kudos to him. Whether he gets a deal or not, he certainly made the most of his opportunities. I think that Alex Chiasson is kind of a story of right guy at the right time, because he's basically stepped right into Oscar Sundqvist's spot. And obviously Sundqvist was dealt to the Minnesota Wild deadline. So they plug in Chiasson. He's the net front guy in the power play. Right-handed too, veteran guys, been there, done that. And what do you know? The dude just scores on the power play or the man advantage. That's all he does. Like, it's perfect. He's doing exactly what they kind of hoped he would do. I think that it's going to be a little tough for him to get a contract. I think at this point you have to at least give him a tryout agreement, unless he can get a contract for somebody else, of course. But I think as far as the Red Wings are concerned, you got to at least give him a tryout. I think he's earned that much. But like, I kind of mentioned it. He's making a living in front of the net right now on the power play. And I think going into next season, that's a spot you want to see Michael Rasmussen in. That's a spot you want to see Elmer Soderblom in. The other big dudes in their system and in their team, right? Rasmussen's injured, he's done for the year, so that's kind of opened up that spot for Chiasson, and Soderblom's still in Grand Rapids. So, but I would expect that both of those guys would be in Detroit next year. So I don't know if that spot or that role is there for Chiasson. Yeah, I like I said, I think you give him a tryout. I think you give him every opportunity to be one of those veteran guys that joins the young crew in Detroit. But I think that right now he's riding high and he should enjoy his time. And I think that like I said, he's earned every accolade and recognition that he's getting right now. But I just think that when you look at who the Red Wings have and what roles they would fill, I think that Chiasson's going to be a little in tough to actually get a contract, but I would like to see him get an opportunity to earn that contract.
Yeah, in Vancouver, he was same thing. He scored almost all his goals on the power play. So I mean, it was something that it was a debate if the Canucks should have brought him back. They got some other guys that would fill that same. I mean, I don't know if it's the same role because obviously he's a power play guy, but. And the Canucks have been pretty good on the power play. So I think I would have been okay with him coming back because he was a really good, same as what he's doing in Detroit. Very good on the power play, good in front of the net. One of those guys is like I don't want to say he's not as good as Thomas Holmstrom, but that type of guy where he was just very good at tipping pucks, very quick hands in front of the net, has some size and he's a good veteran guy. I mean, I think, and I honestly was surprised to see his name. I was like, whoa, Chiasson, what are you talking about? I didn't know he was with Detroit.
and there's something to it too. Like it's good to have good role models on the team. And Chiasson, like I said, he earned his way to Detroit this year. He did it on an AHL contract and turned it into an NHL contract. I think it's good to have those types of guys in the locker room. Because for a lot of the top tier prospects, they've had to work for it and they've had to earn their opportunities. But what Chiasson did this year is difficult. It's hard. It's not every player is able to do that. So I think it's good for the youngins to really see a guy like that in the locker room and understand that even if you've been in this league for 10 years, 10, 12, he's been around for a while now. You still have to earn it every single day. So I don't know. Maybe he gets a deal, maybe he doesn't, but I do think there's value in having guys like Chiasson around.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Like you say, he's got a ton of experience and that's great with the young guys in the locker room. And like you said, that tenacity and that never say die attitude that he has. And, it's good to note that he was on a tryout PTO with the Canucks too in training camp, beat out a few guys to make the team. So, I mean, he's not a stranger to doing this. So, I mean, he works hard. He does what he can and earns a spot. So that's awesome for him to see that. And he's scoring goals right now too. So, and I don't know if Red Wings fans are happy about that he's helping them win games. But there you go. Great segue though to our last off the rush segment here and talking about the upcoming 2023 draft. And the Red Wings are dropping. I mean, their odds are not large to get the first overall pick. They're at a 3.5% odds to get first overall. Not big, but
so you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance, 3.5%. Look what happened to what was it, Philly and New Jersey? They were like, jumped and had around those same odds. So you never know.
Even the Rangers in 2020, right?
Yeah, you never know. We'll see. But as of right now, I ran Tankathon and they're 10th. So question is, who would you draft at 10th overall? Number one, there's part one of the question. Would you think Yzerman would consider Axel Sandin Pellikka at 10th overall? Another Swedish defenseman, right-hand shot. So there, two-part question.
I'll do it in reverse order. Yes, I do think that Yzerman would consider Axel Sandin Pellikka. you gave the reasons right there. He's Swedish. Clearly, the Red Wings love their Swedes. He's also a right-handed defenseman, and they really need those. And he's a pretty darn good one. But then to answer the first part of the question, I think if it's not Sandin Pellikka, I think another guy, I think I've mentioned him on the show already in previous episodes, but David Reinbacher, I think that's a definite name to keep an eye on. I know that when I'm doing when I'm playing around with FC Hockey's mock draft thing, that's a guy I'm always drafting for the Red Wings. So Reinbacher's a name to keep an eye on. And if if they're picking 10th and both Reinbacher and Sandin Pellikka are gone, I could see them taking a look at a guy like Brayden Yager. They could use another really good center prospect to pair with Michael Kasper. And I think that Yager should be available in that range. And I actually just wrote his prospect profile this week. So if you want to know more about Brayden Yager, go check that out. But I think he's got good potential. I think that he's somebody that if the other two aren't there, he would be a pretty good grab at 10th overall.
Yeah, and the thing is that Reinbacher, I think, maybe drafted a little higher than 10th. I think he could be around 7, 8. So that's why I didn't mention him. I'm thinking he could go, but I mean, if he is at 10th, I think Reinbacher's a great pickup. I mean, for any team that needs defense. Which
rewind, you talk about do the Red Wings have Edvinsson's perfect pairing mate, D-pairing mate? I think that one of the two that we just talked about, whether it's Reinbacher or Sandin Pellikka, I think both of those could be really good future line mates for Edvinsson.
Yeah, all Swede pairing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what the draft comes. I mean, we'll have a lot more episodes deep diving on targets and all that stuff as we go. So when we get the draft actually solidified of their positioning after the lottery, which is May 8th. So, Red Wings fans will be looking forward to that, unfortunately for another year. We'll see what happens next year if they do make the playoffs. And I mean, this year there was a chance for quite a while. So we'll see if that happens next year. But this year it'll be draft and talking about top 10 pick around there. They'll probably land in that top 10. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But thanks, Devin, for joining another grind line. And before we let everyone go, one of your guys' comments. We may be a duo for the foreseeable future. We'll obviously have guests when they can come on, but may just be the two of us. So we'll be a defense pairing. Let us know. Do you like this? Do you like this type of format moving forward? Leave us a comment below and let us know your feedback, because we'd love to keep doing this show because it's fun for us to do. And obviously it's fun for you guys to watch. So, judging by the comments and that you were upset that we didn't have an episode last week. So we'll endeavor to have one, even if it's just a duo here. So thanks, Devin, for joining in.
Nice.
All right. Well, until next week, we'll have another, we'll be talking Red Wings next week again. And we'll see if we have some guests on. We'll see. We'll see what happens. That's what it's going to be. Play it by ear every week, but we'll endeavor to have a show for you guys. But, make sure you're checking out Hockey Writers Hockeypedia for all your hockey related questions and all that stuff below. Check out that at thehockeywriters.com. Check out all the articles from Devin and the rest of the Red Wings writing crew as we move closer to the draft. Unfortunately, no playoffs, but like I said, the draft is coming up and we'll have lots more coverage on that, draft targets and all that. And make sure checking out all of the other YouTube videos and past episodes of the Grind Line if you want to take a look at that. And until next time, we'll see you on another episode of the Grind Line.